Alright, y'all. Hello, we're HOSA. If you guys didn't know, my name is Raymond Wynn.
My name is Victoria Lynn. I'm Christy Walker. And my name is Jada.
And our topic today is going to be eating disorders. So just an introduction for us today. In this presentation for HOSA, we're going to talk to you guys about eating disorders and the impact on you guys. So for the table of contents, what we're going to talk about today is history, data, behaviors, effects, challenges, and as well as our conclusion.
Okay, so I'm Christy again. To start you off, I'm going to talk about the history of eating disorders. So in about 700 BC, the first behaviors of eating disorder were found out about when Roman rulers, they would eat a lot of food when they celebrate something, and then they would find ways to get the food back out of their system, maybe throw it up and then eat more so that they can fit more in their body, you know. And the first official diagnosis of the eating disorder was anorexia in the 19th century, but people believe that it was a psychological disorder rather than one that affects you more physically, you know. And eating disorders, they begin in the brain. So when a trauma or something happens, let's say if someone were to have a loss in the family or go through something that causes a depression, they would maybe find a way to comfort themselves through food or restrict the food that they're eating, which leads to them having an eating disorder. And like I said, it begins in the brain. So people will have thoughts that maybe they don't look good enough or they don't feel good enough in their body, and their self-esteem goes down. So they'll develop an eating disorder to combat those thoughts and maybe try to make themselves skinnier or fuller, you know? And genetics and gender are also a very big factor in how these eating disorders are made, because it's found in research that women and people that are related to people who have eating disorders are more likely to develop one in their lifetime. So eating disorders, they're made and they progress from your brain, mentally, emotionally, and then physically. So like I said, when a trauma happens, it affects your brain and how you feel. And then emotionally, you get those feelings of self-esteem and such, or feelings that may cause you to engage in behaviors of eating disorders. And then physically, you see the results of the eating disorder, maybe you'll be skinnier, or you'll have yellow skin and nails and such.
Alright, so do you guys know anyone with an eating disorder or have met someone with eating disorder? You have? Do you want to talk about their experience? No, okay. Well, do you guys know any celebrities that might have one? You do? Who is it? So do you know what he has exactly or what? No? Okay. Alright. So an example of someone who has an eating disorder is Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift, she says she has a love-hate relationship with it, or with food, because whenever she would, when she was first starting off being Taylor Swift, people would say, oh, you have a big belly, or you're getting pregnant or something, right? And that would make someone feel, a little self-conscious about themselves. So in the end, it made her stop eating altogether and start starving, which is an unhealthy way of losing weight. So moving on to our data. We have 3 topics about this disease. First is going to be anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder.
So to start off, like you said, the first one we're going to talk about is anorexia nervosa, which is more commonly called anorexia, and that's when people restrict the amount of food that they eat in order to make themselves skinnier. And common symptoms of this would be a fear of gaining weight, and people having yellow skin and brittle nails, and also people over-exercising to make sure that the food that they don't eat doesn't affect how they look physically. And this is just some pictures to show you that they're the people with the disorder, they're overly skinny, because they don't consume as much food as they need to have a nutritious value in their body. And bulimia nervosa is a condition where people take in a lot of food and then they find ways to get it back out of their system and purging, like I mentioned with the history before. And so basically they'll consume a lot of food, larger amounts of food than usual, and then they'll find ways to get it back out either through purging or using different dietary things like laxatives and such. And most of the time these people have feelings that cause them to binge, and then they'll regret that, and then they'll find ways to perch it back up. And lastly, you've watched mukbangs before, right? Or have you seen one? Yeah. So that usually mukbangs tie in to people wanting to engage in a binge eating disorder because they think like, oh, all these people on the internet, they find ways to eat all this food. It's not gonna affect me in any way, And then they get used to eating that much food because they try to do things that people in mukbangs do. But on a general scale, binge eating disorder is when people consume a lot of food in shorter periods of time, if people consume a lot of food in shorter periods of time, and it's characterized by also people feeling feelings of guilt and shame because they'll take in all that food and then they'll realize that's more food than they need to consume, And then also, like I said, they feel feelings of shame, and then once they're full, they feel like they should just eat more to get the feelings away because they feel better when they're eating.
Okay, so results. So anorexia, about 30 million people in the US have it. Bulimia, about 2% of Americans have it. And then for binge eating disorder, 2.8 million people have it. So overall, the US population, about 12.67% has an eating disorder. 9% of the whole entire global population has one. And 22% of children have an eating disorder. So there's three main factors leading to encouragement of eating disorders, which is social media, perfectionism, and trauma.
Alright, so now the effects. So there's many short-term and long-term effects that come with an eating disorder. But some of the short-term effects is bloating, nausea, constipation, fatigue, bacterial infections, blood sugar fluctuations, and also sleep disturbances. And these are just a few of the many that come from an eating disorder. And for example, some of the more long-term and serious effects is that it can lead to seizures, heart failure, it can put you in a coma, or in severe cases, it can lead to death. Now, there's many factors that contribute to an eating disorder, and one of the first ones I'm going to be talking about is genetics. So people with a family or genetic or history of eating disorders are actually 11 times more likely to gain one compared to the average human. And then next is mental health. So people that suffer from mental health issues is also more likely to suffer from low self-esteem, and due to this, they may suffer from body issues like thinking they're too big or they're too small. And in order to cope with these insecurities, they develop unhealthy eating patterns. And also, if someone suffers from something like depression, they just may not have the energy to actually make sure they're eating the right amount of food every day, or even enough energy to actually get up and eat in general. And next is dysfunctional family dynamics. So people with a dysfunctional family, this means that usually there's some type of issues going on at home, like they may be getting body shaming, like skinny shaming, fat shaming, or just any type of shaming. And in order to try and reach the standards set up by the people around them, they're usually encouraged to actually indulge in unhealthy eating patterns. And not only that, but if they've grown up around eating disorders, it's more likely that they're gonna pick up those habits while thinking that it's normal. And lastly is athletic pressure. So most people know that it's very common for certain sports to have a certain standard that makes you more successful. So for example, in things like figure skating or ballet, the standard is to be very thin, and when participating in those activities, most like judges or people watching will take into accountability like how they look, if they're too skinny or if they're too big for it. And this usually leads to people being body shamed in that community, which can lead to eating disorder. And to further support what I was saying, according to Within Health, they also state that a family history of eating disorders can help lead or worsen an eating disorder. And there's many ways that you can combat an eating disorder, and you can either do that in public areas like how we are now, or rather an individual can take it upon themselves to get help. Like for example, they can go to psychotherapy, medical therapy, or just go to nutritional counseling to make sure that they're eating the right amount, and also talk about why they're feeling these emotions and why they have an eating disorder. Or like I mentioned earlier, public places like school, they can provide support groups for people struggling with an eating disorder. They can make sure to try and spread awareness to help prevent one in the future. And they can also change lunches to have the proper nutrition to make sure every student is eating a healthy and well-balanced meal every day.
So with an eating disorder, there are challenges that come with it. They are dieting and starvation, weight bullying, mental health issues, and family history. So with dieting and starvation, when you keep yourself from eating or you starve yourself, this can cause your metabolism to slow down, which means that your body won't function properly and the amount of food or portion that you eat each day will decrease, and it's not normal for it to happen. And with weight bullying, this is people bullying them because of their physical appearance, because an eating disorder can change your body shape and size. So this leaves them with overthinking and them not fitting in, and lacking interest in activities, making friends. And then with mental health issues, there are a lot, but there are two main ones that people mostly struggle with, which is depression and anxiety. And then lastly, with family history, this goes back with genetics. So if a former family member was supposed to have an eating disorder and a new family member comes from that family, they have a possible chance to also get that eating disorder because it can get passed down through generations.
So in conclusion, eating disorders are disorders that affect the mind and body. Behaviors like eating disorders that have purging, binging, restrictive dieting, and much more can actually have complex conditions that may cause long-term physical and psychological effects that can be treated. Here are references. And do you guys have any questions? Nope? Okay. So before you guys leave, I also would like to tell you guys about safe driving. I know a lot of us start driving soon or has driven and will start driving soon. So according to Georgia's Governor's Office of Highway Safety, young drivers refer to ages 15 and 20 operating motor vehicles. According to Drive Smart Georgia, in 2019, majority of car crashes resulted from either distracted driving, which 52% of these drives can actually happen. Drives with crashes involving average duration of 135 seconds of distraction. So like if you're on your phone or like just talking to someone on your phone, it lasts about 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So you guys should make sure like whenever you're driving, like put away your phone or like pay attention on the road. Distracted driving often occurs at high speeds. 29% speeds are exceeding around 56 miles per hour. So 11 teens die every day as a result of distracted driving. And I want to thank you guys for coming out here. Hosa wants to thank you guys for coming out here and listening to our presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. When you guys leave, please take something. Our esteemed members will give you something and exit through the right side of the door.